What is going on, everybody? Project Rod here, and welcome to the Rodcast, the Monster Truck Fanatic podcast, which is your ultimate destination for all things monster trucks. Whether you're a die-hard Monster Jam fan, a passionate follower of the sport, or just an avid player of the Monster Jam or monster truck-related video games, this is the podcast for you. Once again, I'm your host, Project Rod, and we are on episode 19 of the Rodcast. And who knows what number we would have been on had I not had such a long pause, but just that huge break of not really having content out. And the Monster Jam season slowing down, I don't know, I felt like there wasn't really much to talk about without like really deeply planning these things out. But hey, we're here, we're on 19, and hopefully it's on the up and up from here. And today's episode, really quick, really simple, just going over the results of Tour Violet for the Showdown Champions League from last week of Stop 1, last week for Tour Violet. We're going to go over Houston event number 3, which was phenomenal. I have a huge announcement, which I made on my Discord and a little bit on Instagram, but not too much anywhere else. And then that's pretty much it. That's all I have, but I'm sure I'll find a way to fill in the gaps and make it a little bit more longer. I'd like to have longer videos out going forward, or longer episodes out, going forward. But we'll figure it out. We'll have guests back on the show here pretty soon, once we get back into the swing of things. But Tour Violet for the Showdown Champions League last week. Stop 1. We had one dominant driver above the rest, and I'll get to that, but you'll soon see who I'm talking about. And again, just like before, if you haven't seen Stop 1 yet, feel free to go back and check it out, and then you can come back, or if you want to listen here, or whatever you want to do, whatever works. But that's it. Spoiler warning right now. So Stop 1 was in Alaska for Tour Violet, and we had a 12 truck lineup versus a 10 truck lineup back in Tour Blue. This 12 truck lineup consisted of Crustration, driven by Nova Strider, Dragon, driven by Arcanine 59, Zombie, driven by the Camera 9785, Pirate's Curse, driven by Flames Plays, Northern Nightmare, driven by Daniel Murray, Gravedigger, driven by Kinda Fluffy, Alien Invasion, driven by MMJ Producer, Avenger, driven by Toucan Plays, Jurassic Attack by Omboji, Velociraptor by Ant99, Blue Thunder in Riley Strider, and Maximum Destruction. And Matt Johnson behind the wheel. And qualifying wasn't too bad. There was tons of turns in this racetrack, so you couldn't really, throttle down and really gas it through the track. You kind of had to be very careful with your braking and your turning to make sure you weren't out of bounds and received a penalty. So a lot of tight turns, and there was one specific U-turn that would trip people up. But it wasn't too bad. It was I would say it was fairly close. It was fairly close for the top 2, top 3 racing, or honestly from 2 to 4. It was pretty close in range, but really the fastest qualifier out of all of them kind of just blew it out of the water, and that was Matt Johnson in Maximum Destruction with a 20.845. being the first fastest qualifier of the season in Tour Violet. Right behind him was Dragon and Arcanine 59 with a 21.721, Northern Nightmare and Daniel Murray with a 21.838, and Avenger with Toucan Plays with a 22.062. So those were your top 4 who got bye runs into round 2. Everybody else had to face off each other in round 1, and it was pretty good. We only had a couple penalties in the first round of racing. Zombie in the second race, unfortunately getting a penalty, and then Velociraptor to wrap up the races of round 1, also getting a penalty. So that gave Alien Invasion a chance to move on to face Dragon. Moving on to the semifinal round, it was pretty good. Not too bad though. We had a classic matchup of Maximum Destruction versus Gravedigger Max D, and Matt Johnson coming out on top, moving on to the semis. Toucan Plays knocking out Riley Strider and Blue Thunder in Toucan Plays and Avenger knocking out Riley Strider and Blue Thunder to face Matt Johnson and Max D in the semifinals. Then we had Northern Nightmare with Daniel Murray and Jurassic Attack with Omboji going head to head. It was a pretty close race, but Northern Nightmare came out on top, and then finally was Dragon and Arcanine 59 against Alien Invasion and MMJ Producer, where Dragon came out on top and moved on to the semis. So our top 4 fastest qualifiers of this stop happened to be the 4 racers in the championship, or in the semifinal round here in Stop 1 of Tour Violet. And to start things off, Max D defeating Avenger with a 20.853 versus Avengers 22.176, giving him that first spot in the championship race. Then it was Northern Nightmare versus Dragon to finish the semifinal round, where Northern Nightmare was half a second faster and moved on to the championship round to face Matt Johnson in Maximum Destruction. And very unfortunate for Northern Nightmare. Regardless, it would have been a loss. It was about a second and a half gap between him and Maximum Destruction, but Maximum Destruction and Matt Johnson on top, getting the first racing win of the season here for Toro Violet. Unfortunately, Northern Nightmare did have a penalty, which gave him a time of 25.072, but without that penalty, it would have been a 22.072. So again, it was about a second and a half, maybe a little less difference. So Maximum Destruction would have taken the win regardless. So moving on to Best Trick, we had some great attempts. Seems like the judges were a little bit all over the place. But some key moments here. I'm trying to think back, really. I've slept since then, but I know Northern Nightmare had a great one. Velociraptor had a great one, kind of held the lead for a little while there. A couple of slip-ups here and there, nothing too crazy. We did have some amazing sky wheelies from Gravedigger and Crush Station. I believe Avenger had one as well. Dragon, unfortunately, at the very bottom with a 4.440, and unfortunately, just wasn't a great one. Went for a for a moonwalk nose wheelie for the first attempt, and then unfortunately gave it too much, ran out of real estate, and just landed on his lid. So very unfortunate outing for Dragon. But the driver who came out on top was almost Velociraptor and Ant99. He got the second place spot. It was none other than Maximum Destruction and Matt Johnson yet again, taking the third competition win here in Stop 1 with an 8.924. And honestly, pretty well deserved. Rode a bicycle just about all the way across the track and then back again. And to top it all off, he had a popper into a wheelie, which he throttled into a backflip. So it was pretty insane. It was a great attempt nonetheless. So huge congrats to Matt Johnson and Max Steed. Now moving on to freestyle, which was the final competition of this stop. And again, some great runs, memorable runs. Northern Nightmare and Daniel Murray throwing out an amazing run, getting an 8.309. Honestly, a fantastic run. To say the least. Avenger and Toucan Blades getting second place with an 8.327, just barely beating out Northern Nightmare and Daniel Murray, but it was none other than Riley Strider and Blue Thunder getting the freestyle win with a 9.123. Had a double backflip and a front flip during the run. It was a great run nonetheless. And again, judges were a little bit all over the place, but still a pretty good run, pretty well deserved. And Maximum Destruction and Matt Johnson, unfortunately, unable to get the freestyle win, so didn't get a perfect competition, but nonetheless was the overall event champion for Stop 1. Another notable run before I move on. Maximum Destruction and Matt Johnson did have an incredible run. Great momentum all the way around. It was good enough for fifth, at least in the eyes of the judges, but still a great run nonetheless. So, moving on to the next, the next topic at hand here. Something that I shared mainly on Discord, and I do want to shout somebody out before or here when I move on in a second. But so you know, I was experimenting with a company called Teespring, and honestly, I just had a lot of issues, very glitchy and it just wasn't it. I did order a sample shirt, and it didn't come out straight. And I made sure to double check to make sure everything was aligned, everything that was the way it was supposed to be, at least on the designer aspect of the website. And it came out crooked, or not crooked, just misaligned. So it just looked really off. My logo was off to the side, and really anytime I tried to design anything with them, it just wasn't great. That was just my experience. I don't want to speak ill on Teespring or give anybody else bad impressions. I'm just saying this is what I dealt with, so I decided to move on with a different company. And now I have pretty much an entire website for the channel. I mean, it has a quick welcome message. We got merch drops on there, my latest feed from YouTube, as well as all my links, and eventually I'll add more things here to make it a full-blown website with more information, maybe even like a newsletter. I don't know, I'm still figuring this stuff out, but I did announce it on Discord, a little bit on Instagram, but mainly on Discord, and I got some pretty good feedback. If you do want to check it out, it's projectrodrod-shop.fourthwall.com. but the link is in my Instagram bio, as well as in my Discord and in my Linktree if you have that. And I'm going to try to be sure to remember to put it down in the description below so you can check it out. But there's tons of merch. I say tons of merch. There's about like 4 or 5 shirts, 5 shirts and a hat. For the first time, we have a hat now. So you can have a Showdown Champions League shirt with the Showdown Champions League logo on it. You can have the Rodcast shirt with a Rodcast logo on it. Or you can just have the plain old Project Rod shirt with my Project Rod logo on the front. My 2 favorite shirts, and I do have some samples on the way to kind of flex and take pictures and stuff to post everywhere. But I do have the Tor Blue and Tor Violet shirts with the Season 1 drivers on the back of each shirt, depending on the tour. And honestly, these are my favorite. I'm really looking forward to getting these and seeing what they look like and kind of showing them off to everybody. And just super excited for that. Super stoked. We do have the Project Rod snapback, a black snapback with the logo on the front. So I do have one of those coming on the way as well. So super excited again. Just want to give a huge shout out to Daniel Murray. Has been with the channel for a while, back in Steel Titans, and has been on the Rodcast before. And he has his own channel. He does his what is it, Daniel's Downhill Extravaganza, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I didn't butcher that. Yes, Daniel's Downhill Extravaganza. Yeah, I did get that right. So a diecast downhill racing series. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to check him out. Again, Daniel Murray, or Daniel the Fireball Murray. I forget exactly how he has his YouTube name up out there. So huge shout out to him. He was the first one ever to buy a Project Rod shirt. He got the Project Rod Showdown Champions League shirt, and I can't wait to see. I just can't wait to see it. I can't wait for him to get it. And he did say he would share some pictures once he got it, so I'm super excited. I'm sure he is too. And again, he's no, I don't want to give out too information, but he's pretty open about it too. He's a fellow Canadian or I say fellow Canadian, I'm not Canadian, but he's up north. He's a neighbor of the great USA, and he was able to order it and get it shipped over there. So I'm sure it ships to multiple places. I'm not too familiar with exactly where it ships out to. I can definitely double check, but I know at least for sure because of Daniel, it ships to Canada. So again, huge shout out to Daniel. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And anybody else, be sure to check it out, and feel free to support the channel and rep the brand, if you will. So super excited about that. More news about that will come out later. Again, still working on the diecast league. Just trying to get some figuring out the kinks and getting the rules and all that figured out. I do want it to be a point series and all that, and a world finals. I'm thinking about maybe adding some extra things to it to where it's not just racing, maybe like a high jump, maybe like a who can jump the furthest. But I guess I don't want to overcomplicate it either. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you'd want it to just be racing, see how that goes, and then in the future we can further expand. Or if I should do like racing and a high jump, or racing and who can jump the furthest, or whatever it may be. Just something to make it a little more different. Add some more variation to it, and I don't know, just make it more interesting. And I am debating on whether I want to make it like a short series, like how I have with Steel Titans and Showdown Champions League, where it's 5 stops or 5 events for each one, for a total of 10, and then World Finals. Or if I should really expand on it and do it like a few months, and do like multiple. I don't know. I just want it to be something cool, something different, and something entertaining. So let me know what you guys think, more so on the timeline, how many you'd like to see, because again, it's going to be 2 different tours, or 2 different leagues. It's going to be the YouTube League and the Discord League with 16 trucks each, and then I'm going to want them to meet for World Finals. The drivers with the top points and the top number of points, whatever it is, will be in World Finals, and then X amount of drivers will have to do a last chance qualifier to get in. So it's going to be a final bracket of maybe like, I don't know, 16, 24 in World Finals. Again, these are numbers that I'm just trying to figure out, but I've just been so distracted with other projects and other things going on. So let me know what you guys think and what you would like to see in that new diecast league that's coming out here, hopefully pretty soon. So moving on to the final topic at hand, and the one I've kind of been looking forward to, and honestly, it's just it was just great. And I know most of you probably already seen it, but I did go to the Houston show 3. It was fantastic. One of the best shows I've seen in Houston in a very, very long time. And I did manage to get a suite this time around, and that was awesome too. It was a great experience. Definitely something I want to do in the future. But just back to the competition, it was phenomenal. I loved the intros that they did at the beginning. Gave me huge throwback vibes of old Monster Jam, when everybody would park their truck, get on the tire, and they would introduce them, put the spotlight on them, introduce them, they'd wave and everything, and it was fantastic. They did that to start it off. Then they all got in their trucks, got them going, did the laps around the truck or around the track, and it was just great. It was a great introduction, great throwback to original Monster Jam, and it was just something that I just really loved, and hope they continue to expand on and kind of go back to their original way of doing shows. But the event started out with a bang in racing. Right, to start us off, it was El Toro Loco versus Mayhem, and to finish the race, one, it was a super close race, and two, Mayhem I don't know, it was an awkward jump, and he caught the back end of the truck, flipped forward, tried to get in the sidewall. I don't know if they shut him off or if the truck just gave, and then so he ended up on his side, just smoke everywhere. So right off the bat, starting off with a bang, huge flip in round one of racing, and it was amazing. But I didn't think he would come back for round two, because he ended up winning the race over El Toro Loco, so I did not think he was going to come back for racing, or really for the rest of the competition, just because of how it's gone in the past. But luckily he did. But then we had Jurassic Attack defeating Megalodon, Lucas Stabilizer defeating Vendetta, and Thunder Roars defeating the Rod Riot Show. And a lot of these races were like photo finishes, super close. So these drivers, every single one of them, were on their game, and it was phenomenal to watch. But then in round two, we had Gravedigger versus Mayhem, which Mayhem at that point, I guess they didn't get the work out all the kinks right and get everything done that they needed to back in the pits, because after the first, let's see, it's 1, 2, so the second turn on the straightaway, the truck just kind of gave out, and he wasn't really accelerating as much. He was just kind of cruising on the track, and then he ended up going back into the pit, so they didn't quite get whatever was wrong with it, but he did end up coming back later on for best trick, for skills and freestyle. But then moving on in the rest of racing, we had Jurassic Attack defeating Avenger, Classroom Crusher defeating Lucas Stabilizer, and Zombie defeating Thunder Roars. Again, a bunch of super close races, photo finishes that were fantastic to see. Semi-final round, we had Gravedigger defeating Jurassic Attack and Zombie defeating Classroom Crusher. And then finally in the championship round, in the final round of racing, we had Gravedigger defeating Zombie and getting those 12 crucial points here in the series. So huge congrats to Gravedigger. He kind of had an off stop last time around. He was here, so it was good to see him come out on top of the win. Now moving on to skills, again, a bunch of fantastic competitions. And I'm looking back at the results, and it did say Mayhem did not compete for skills. I could have swore he did, and I'm trying to think back, but yeah, I could have sworn he did, unless he came out and tried something, tried an attempt and then gave up. I don't know, but I could have swore that he came out, but I could be wrong. I'll have to go look back at my recordings and see. But a lot of the scores were really low. I mean, there were some great runs, but I don't know, the crowd wasn't really feeling skills. And again, skills gets kind of repetitive, especially with this tracks. I did mention in the last episode that these tracks, they're just too... They're built for bicycles and nose wheelies, but not so much regular wheelies. They're not built for bicycles. They're built more so for moonwalks and nose wheelies and regular wheelies versus bicycles and slap wheelies and stuff like that, because there's not enough room to do a bicycle. And if you do get a bicycle, it's so short-lived that it was like, well, what was the point of that? There was like, you could have just went and did something else. I don't know. But some of the notable runs were Gravedigger, which, mind you, and I did mention that I did touch up on this last time because of the comment question of the day, mentioning about how the broken trucks were able to continue to compete. And Gravedigger, he came out, what was his first move? Oh man, I forget what his first move was, but his front right tire locked. It just completely locked. It wasn't moving. And I was like, okay, they're going to pull him out. That's it. He's done. Competition's over for him. But no, he just kept going, and he tried to attempt a bicycle with that front right tire not working, and then somehow he just worked with what he had and got a lucky break and got like a wheelie and a save for his second attempt, and it was great. I really thought he would have taken the lead, because honestly, I mean, looking past the name of Gravedigger and past, don't get me wrong, Classroom Crusher and Camden Murphy just did amazing. 9.597. He was the winner of skills, but Gravedigger got a 9.174. And the creativity and the know-how to work with what you have and getting whatever you can out there, I think was just great. It's commendable. It's fantastic. And just huge props to Tyler for being able to work that broken truck, into something good. And I don't know, I guess that's really all I have to say about that. Just huge props to him. And really, honestly, I felt like he could have definitely taken it, but Classroom Crusher did put on an amazing outing. He did go up and over the ski jump on the front 2 tires. I mean, perfect control all the way up and over. And I'm sure just showing the pure skill, if you will, that took, I'm sure that kind of just locked in the deal, or sealed the deal for him to get that win. So again, huge props to him for winning. And other than that, moving on to freestyle. Freestyle was phenomenal again. All 12 trucks ran, and 2 of the trucks got disqualified, I guess, if you will, because they didn't fill the 30 seconds or whatever to receive a score. So that was really it. But other than that, all 12 of them ran for the first time in a really long time. Rod Ryan Show was the first truck out. What was his name? Foley? Darn. What's his name? Something Foley. Whatever. Oh my god, I'm so sorry for forgetting that. But Foley came out in the Rod Ryan Show truck and started off with a bang, huge air and everything, but he hit the opposite end of the ski jump, landed kind of awkwardly on the back end, and that truck was just super bouncy that night that it launched him forward, but instead of landing on the tires that would have gave him an extra bounce to complete the somersault, he hit like the frame of the truck and it just fell flat on the roof, and that killed his run right before the 30-second mark. So he was disqualified right off the bat. And then after him, was it Mayhem that went after him? I forget the exact order, but Mayhem had a great run. I ended up flipping over, had a wild run. Cynthia Gauthier and Lucas Stabilizer, 9.213, was in first place for a while. And I mean, she threw it down. She had a phenomenal run. She was like the 3rd truck out. And she didn't fill the time all the way. She left maybe like 20-30 seconds, I believe, if I remember correctly. But it was because she went for a backflip. And of course, that awkward bounce hitting the dumpsters that I was complaining about, that is such a stupid rule, that happened and they shut her off. So had she continued even longer, she probably would have had a higher score. But she had a phenomenal run. Who else? Oh, dude, freaking Classroom Crusher, 9.069. So not enough to take the win, obviously. But he had one of the best runs and one of the most amazing saves I have ever seen in person. Kind of reminiscent of, and I don't know the dates, I don't know exactly when it happened. I just know, and I'm sure most of you are going to know when I say this, but Northern Nightmare and Cam McQueen driving Northern Nightmare, that just amazing save where he was flipping over and used that front right tire to catch enough grip to flip it back on all fours. I don't know where exactly it was, but I know if you look it up, just Northern Nightmare crazy save or something, I don't know, I'm sure it'll pop up. And that was exactly the vibes it gave me, and it was just fantastic. It had me hollering, and I know I posted the short on Instagram and on YouTube, and you can hear me cheering. And it was just fantastic. Just an amazing run, all in all. Megalodon had a great run, had some great saves. I will say this, though. Lucas Stabilizer shut off for hitting the container. Vendetta, I believe, hit the container, got shut off. And who else? There was at least 2 or 3 trucks that got shut off hitting that container, but there was one truck that didn't, and that was Megalodon. I have the recording because where I was sitting, you could see it plain as day. The back end of the truck, the tire, and then the back end of the body hit the dumpster and pushed it back, but the officials did not shut him off, which I thought was odd because they were shutting everybody off who was hitting those containers, no matter what, whether it's accidental, whether you're barely tapping it, they were shutting you off. And he full-blown hit it enough to push it back, and they didn't shut him off, which I thought was crazy because, again, that's not fair. They were doing it to everybody else but Megalodon, so I just thought that was really weird, kind of fishy. Maybe it was an honest mistake, but you couldn't miss it. Everybody's watching. If I'm watching that as a fan who knows that they'll get shut off for hitting that, if I'm watching it, so are the officials, and they did not call that. So, just Monster Jam, do better. Fell, do better, because that's not fair for the other trucks that hit it accidentally and they can't do anything about it. Which, hold on, thinking back to Lucas Stabilizer, she did flip over after her backflip, so I'll leave that alone. But there were other drivers that hit it and got shut off, but not only this show, and last week's shows too, where they just tapped it because of an awkward jump and boom, shut off. But yet Megalodon hits it with the tire, hits it with the frame, the dumpster goes back, or container, whatever you want to call it. You can see it being pushed back by the truck, and he still continued his run. So, whatever, that's just me. I'm just putting that out there. Jurassic Attack, a great run. I believe he was only able to work first gear, so it was a freestyle that turned into like a second skills competition for him, if you will. Got that steering wheel move in there and all that. Avenger, great run, great saves. At some point, I guess something was wrong with the truck, and he just went for some donuts to wrap it all up, and it was fantastic. Love to see a classic move like donuts being used. El Toro Loco, fantastic run. He lost the rear steer early on, but he made the most of it, got 2 incredible saves. Thunder Roars, again, kind of controlled chaos all over the place, saving the truck. But again, Zombie was the one who took the win, 9.743, and just phenomenal run. Great air all the way around, great momentum, great saves, slap wheelies. I mean, he checked all the boxes, got the backflip, landed it perfectly, continued the run. I mean, Bari Musawa put on an amazing freestyle run, and he definitely deserved that freestyle win. And in the end, the overall event champion was Zombie with 33 points, Classroom Crusher right behind him with 29, and Thunder Roars in third with 25. So unfortunately, that's going to wrap up all the Houston shows for this regular season. I'm sure they'll come back in October like they usually do. Joe Foley, that's his name. I'm sure they usually come back in October like they usually do. And I'll be sure to be there, hopefully get into the pit party again, and hopefully get a suite just like I did this time around, because that was just awesome. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That's all I have for today. Again, nothing too crazy. We do have the second stop of Tour Blue here pretty soon, so that's going to be fun to watch. Last time we left Tour Blue, Black Pearl was on top with 39 points after being the overall event champion in stop 1. Megalodon in second with 28, and Monster with Dalmatian and Lucas Stabilizer tied for third with 26. Brutus in fifth with 23. Son of a Digger in 6th with 21, Monster Mutt in 7th with 20, Higher Education in 8th with 17, Gravedigger the Legend in 9th with 16, and El Toro Loco in 10th with 9 points. Again, it's still early on. Don't get discouraged. If you're in this tour, there's plenty of time and plenty of ground to make up here this season. So right now, though, it's looking like it's a rivalry between Black Pearl and Megalodon, which is going to be great to watch. Again, stop 2, it's going to be in Colorado, so a shorter track. So qualifying is going to be shorter, racing is going to be shorter, but they have tons of room to expand for freestyle and best trick. So it's going to be great to see. And yeah, let me know your predictions and who you think will be the fastest qualifier, racing winner, best trick winner, freestyle winner, and overall event champion of Stop 2 for Tour Blue. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I don't know if I have a common question of the day. Maybe I do. Let me see. Here we go. Daniel the Fireball Murray. He commented this back in November, back before I was even pretty much when I stopped doing these. But he said, "What is your favorite independent driver in any league?" And honestly, at the moment, I did like what's his name? Jeez, he's a driver of Vendetta. I did like him for a while, but honestly, Dalton Widener in Jurassic Attack is I'm really impressed. I love Jim Kohler in Avenger. I always will, but I feel like that's kind of too out there and too mainstream, I guess, if you will. Chris, fantastic as well, but also kind of, in that realm. So Dalton Widener in Jurassic Attack at the moment is currently my favorite independent driver, just because I feel like dude has tons of potential. Anytime he freestyles now in the Stadium Series, he throws it down. The whole trick of his throwing the steering wheel out and all that stuff, I mean, I don't know. I think it is fantastic, or he is fantastic, and what he does is great. And looking forward to what he brings in the future. So let me know who you, or not who you think, but let me know who your favorite independent driver is at the moment. And we can discuss in the comments. We can discuss in next week's episode. But that's it. That's all I have for now. Cut it off here at 30 minutes. So we'll see you at stop 1 or stop 2 of Tor Blue, and be sure to keep an eye out at 9 a.m. Central Time. All the freestyle runs for Houston will be uploaded in one video, so keep an eye out for that if you're interested in watching that. And that's pretty much it. We'll see you in the next episode, and this is Project Rod, and I'll see you in the next one.